Hey there, pirates! Welcome aboard the Anime No Mi channel. Zoro's quest to become the greatest swordsman in the world is not just a journey of strength, but also a journey of constant improvement of his skills and the weapons he wields. So far, Zoro has acquired legendary swords and faced incredibly powerful enemies. But there's a crucial piece missing in his path. He needs a supreme grade sword to compete on equal footing with Mihawk, the current greatest swordsman in the world. Mihawk is a monster when it comes to swordsmanship. It's not just that he's stronger, it's what his swords represent within the One Piece universe. Mihawk wields Yoru, a supreme grade black sword, considered one of the 12 most powerful swords in the world. Yoru is not just a blade, it's a manifestation of Mihawk's power. It's made of a rare quality steel capable of cutting even darkness. Combined with Mihawk's unparalleled haki, Yoru becomes almost an extension of the swordsman himself. From the beginning of his journey, Zoro wielded Sandai Katetsu, one of the 3 cursed swords of the Katetsu family. While it is an Owazamono, a high-grade sword, it carries a curse that makes it slightly harder to control. Zoro, with his indomitable spirit and skill in Santoryu, has already proven he can handle a cursed sword, but Sandai Katetsu has its limitations. It is not a supreme grade sword, and Zoro knows it. Sandai Katetsu is the least powerful of his 3 swords, and Zoro needs a blade that can face Mihawk's absolute power. Owazamono swords are not enough for him. He needs a blade that can rival Mihawk's Yoru, a sword that is not just a tool for combat, but one that has a deep bond with Zoro himself, a weapon that, just as Yoru is for Mihawk, becomes an extension of his very being. This sword needs to be forged, and Zoro has the skill and determination to find it, or create one himself. No matter how skilled Zoro becomes, he will never surpass Mihawk while wielding lower grade swords like Sandai Kitetsu or even Enma, which, while exceptionally powerful, is not on the level of a Kokudo like Yoru. These weapons are good, they are strong, but the difference in quality is clear. No matter how strong Zoro gets, without a supreme grade sword, he will never be able to defeat Mihawk, who is considered the greatest swordsman in the world. Zoro is not only seeking technique and strength, he is seeking the perfect sword to complement his skills and claim the title he has always aspired to. Let's anchor this theory with the weight of Murakumogiri, Whitebeard's Naginata, one of the 12 Saijo Owazamono blades, the most powerful swords in the world, like Mihawk's Yoru, Chapter 11. In Chapter 576, during Marineford, Whitebeard uses Murakumogiri to channel the tremors of the Gura Gura no Mi, cracking the air and making admirals like Akainu break into a sweat. This weapon is not just a piece of metal, it's a relic that withstands supreme haki and Yonku powers, something that aligns with Zoro's dream of becoming the greatest swordsman, surpassing Mihawk, Chapter 49. Zoro already carries 3 respectable katanas: Wado Ichimonji, Sandai Kitetsu, and Enma, all Owazamono, Chapter 955. But Murakumogiri would be a leap forward, turning him into a monster capable of cutting even the chaos of the Void Century. The theory suggests that after Whitebeard's death in Chapter 576, the Naginata remained with the Whitebeard pirates, perhaps with Marco, Chapter 998, and Zoro could acquire it in an epic confrontation or inherit it as a trophy to forge a new katana. It's fun to imagine Zoro, one eye glowing, looking at the Naginata. "You cracked, Marineford? Time to become my new blade, old man?" The stage for this is heating up in the Elbaf arc, where the manga is on fire in Chapter 1154. Zoro is training with giants, and the island home to legendary blacksmiths like Dory and Broji, Chapter 116, is the perfect place to forge a supreme weapon. Murakumogiri, which in Chapter 576 withstands direct attacks from Akainu and Sengoku, could be reworked by a giant blacksmith, perhaps someone like Loki, who appears as a prince, and it's fun to imagine Zoro, one eye glowing, looking at the Naginata. "You cracked, Marineford? Time to become my new blade, old man?" The stage for this is heating up in the Elbaf arc, where the manga is on fire in Chapter 1154. Zoro is training with giants, and the island home to legendary blacksmiths like Dory and Broji, Chapter 116, is the perfect place to forge a supreme weapon. Murakumogiri, which in Chapter 576 withstands direct attacks from Akainu and Sengoku, could be reworked by a giant blacksmith, perhaps someone like Loki, who appears as a prince in Elbaf, Chapter 1154. Zoro has already handled demanding blades like Enma, which drains haki nearly to the point of death, Chapter 955. Transforming Whitebeard's Naginata into a katana would be a challenge worthy of him, requiring all of his kingly haki. Awakened in Chapter 1033 against King, the new sword, perhaps a Kakuto black blade like Shusui, Chapter 953, would inherit Whitebeard's legacy, a man who in chapter 563 dreamed of a free world, something that resonates with Zoro and Luffy's spirit. Imagine the scene: Zoro, with his bandana tied, testing the new katana with a strike that cleaves a mountain in Elbaf, while Luffy laughs, "Zoro, now you're like a Yonkou with swords." Why Murakumogiri? This naginata is not just a weapon, it's a symbol. In chapter 576, it channels the Gura Gura no Mi, creating quakes that challenge the world government. Whitebeard in chapter 563 reveals his desire to protect his family and support Ace's dream, which echoes Luffy's. If Zoro inherits this weapon, he carries the weight of a Yonkou who faced the world for what he believed. In chapter 998, Marco, the phoenix of the Whitebeard pirates, fights in Wano, showing loyalty to the Straw Hats. He could hand Murakumogiri to Zoro as a gesture of trust, especially if the Whitebeard pirates join Luffy's Grand Fleet, which in chapter 800 already has 5,640 pirates. Forging the naginata into a katana would be a milestone for Zoro, like when he mastered Enma in chapter 1033, turning it into a weapon capable of cutting even Kaido. The new katana, imbued with Zoro's haki and Murakumogiri's soul, could rival Mihawk's Yoru, preparing him for the final battle against the greatest swordsman, chapter 49. The narrative of this theory also ties Zoro's legacy to the larger One Piece arc. In chapter 1115, Vegapunk reveals the world is sinking due to ancient weapons, and One Piece might be one of them, chapter 1114. Whitebeard in chapter 957 was an ally of Rocks who hunted Void Century secrets, chapter 1096. Murakumogiri could carry this history, perhaps forged with rare materials like plutons, chapter 218. By transforming it, Zoro would gain a weapon capable of facing the Elders, who in chapter 1085 wield demonic powers. In chapter 1154, Zoro is refining his haki in Elbaf, and a katana made from Murakumogiri would be perfect to cut through Imu's darkness, who in chapter 1086 seems untouchable. Fun to imagine. Zoro, with his new blade facing an Elder and saying, "This sword already cracked the world time to cut you." The weapon, forged with the power of a Yonkou and Zoro's haki, would symbolize the union of Whitebeard's legacy and Luffy's dream of becoming king of the pirates. The confrontation to claim Murakumogiri also makes sense. In chapter 1157, Blackbeard, who stole Whitebeard's Gura Gura no Mi, chapter 576, could have taken the naginata after Marineford, since the Whitebeard pirates were in ruins. Zoro, facing Blackbeard or his commanders, like Shiryu the swordsman, chapter 925, would be the perfect stage for him to seize the weapon. In chapter 1033, Zoro already showed that his kingly haki can cut even King, a nearly indestructible Lunarian. Against Shiryu, who uses stealth blades, a Murakumogiri transformed into a katana would give Zoro the power to dominate. The fight would be epic. Zoro, with Enma in one hand, Wado in the other, and the new katana in his mouth, using a Santoryu that combines Murakumogiri's tremor with his black haki, like in Kokoba Madaragari from chapter 1110. Imagine Luffy in the background shouting, "Zoro, slice this guy like a meatloaf!" Victory would grant Zoro not only the weapon, but also the respect of the Whitebeard pirates, like Marco, who in chapter 998 already fights alongside the Straw Hats. The symbolism of Zoro wielding Murakumogiri is also pure narrative gold. In chapter 937, Hitetsu explains that black blades, like Shusui, come to life with the user's haki after intense battles. Murakumogiri, which has faced admirals and Yonkou, already has a soul forged by Whitebeard. Zoro, by transforming it, would imbue it with his own haki, as he did with Enma, chapter 955. In Elbaf, where giant blacksmiths can use ancient techniques, chapter 1154, the naginata could become a supreme kokuto, perhaps called Muraku, or something as brutal as Zoro himself. This sword would be perfect to face Mihawk, whose Yoru is the ultimate black blade, chapter 11, and would give Zoro the power to cut even the Elders, who in chapter 1085 display demonic forms. The weapon would also connect Zoro to Odin's legacy, who wielded Enma and Amy no Habakiri, chapter 955, reinforcing his role as Wano's swordsman. The theory also fits into the final war of One Piece. In chapter 1115, Vegapunk says that One Piece may be linked to ancient weapons, and Luffy, as Joy Boy, chapter 1044, needs strong allies. Zoro, with a katana forged from Murakumogiri, would be the perfect shield, cutting enemies like Kuzan, chapter 1081, or Blackbeard, chapter 1157. In chapter 800, Luffy's Grand Fleet, with divisions like Hadruden's, shows that the war will be global. Zoro, wielding a legendary weapon, would be central, like when he cut Kaido in Chapter 1002. Murakumogiri, transformed, would symbolize the union of Whitebeard's dream, freedom for his family, and Luffy's becoming king of the pirates. Fun to imagine Zoro with his new katana facing Shiryu and saying, "This blade belonged to the strongest man, now it's mine." Finally, Murakumogiri's transformation reinforces Zoro's growth as a swordsman. In Chapter 49, he loses to Mihawk but vows to surpass him. In Chapter 1033, his kingly haki awakens. And in Elbaf, Chapter 1154, he's refining his techniques. A katana forged from Whitebeard's Naginata would be the pinnacle, combining the power of a Yonko with Zoro's spirit. In Chapter 1114, the world sinks, and Zoro, with a weapon that cracked Marineford, could cut through Imu's darkness, helping Luffy reach Laugh Tale. Imagine the finale. Zoro, with his new Kakuto, slicing an island in half while Luffy laughs, "Zoro, you're the best vice captain!" The Grand Fleet in the background would applaud, with Marco waving, "You honored the old man, swordsman." That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.